Okay, now we're going to look at how we can find one of the missing dimensions when we're given the volume. So here on our first shape, it's a rectangular prism. We're given the volume being 24 centimeters cubed. We have a dimension for the height. We know the base, but we don't know the depth. So in order to be able to find our missing value here, our missing dimension, we kind of need to work backwards. So we start always start by writing the formula. So the formula for a rectangular prism is your base, volume equals base, times the height, times the depth. Now, some people call depth breadth, some people might call it width. They kind of all mean the same thing. So long as you've got three dimensions that you're multiplying together, two for the front area and then one representing how far the shape has been stretched back, it doesn't really matter what word here you use to describe those sides. Anyway, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put these values into my formula and then I can work it from there. So I know what the volume is. They tell me that it's 24, so I'm going to put that in the place of the V over here. So 24 is equal to, now my base is 4, my height is 3, but I don't know what my depth is, so I'm just going to call that X. So now, these two numbers I can multiply together. They give me 12 times X. So now I've got 12X over here, and now my goal is to move this 12 over to the other side so I can figure out what X is when it's on its own there. So the opposite of multiplying is divide, so I'm going to divide both sides by 12. They've cancelled out. So on the right hand side I'm just left with X, and on the left side, how many 12s go into 24? 2. So X is equal to 2. So that is this length here. X equals 2. So now if I worked this the other way, 3 times 4 gives me 12. 12 times 2 gives me 24. So this here, that would be 2 centimeters. It wouldn't be centimeters squared though, because it's only one length. It's one dimensional. So I'm not going to be putting any numbers after my units there. Okay, here we have a cylinder. Same thing, I'm given the volume, but I'm missing one of the dimensions. So in this case, I'm missing the height. So I need to, again, kind of work a bit backwards to be able to figure out what my missing dimension is. So I'm going to start, as always, by writing my formula. So the formula for a cylinder is volume equals pi times r squared times h. Now all I do is I put those numbers that I'm given into the place of the letters. So volume, they tell me it's 88. It's pi. My radius is 2, so 2 squared. And I don't know what the height is, so I'm just going to leave it as h. Okay, so I'm going to simplify this a little bit more, just to make it easier for me, just so it looks nicer. So 2 squared is 4 pi, and then it's times h. So all I've done is I've fused those two together and I've moved the number in the front because, you know, it looks a little bit better than saying pi 4. Saying 4 pi, it just seems right. Okay, so now I've got 88 is equal to 4 pi times h. Now I didn't actually need to do this step, and you don't actually need to do that step if you don't want to, but I find that's going to make it a little bit, my working is going to be a little bit more neat if I do this this way. So now I want to figure out how I can move 4 pi to the other side to leave h on its own. So 4 pi and h are multiplied, so I need to do the opposite. So I'm going to be dividing both sides by whatever it is that I'm wanting to move. So because this is what I'm wanting to move, that's what I'm going to divide by. So 4 pi, that's cancelled those out. So all I'm left with over this side is h. And now I can type this into a calculator and get my answer. So ye old faithful calculator, 88 divided by 4 pi. And I get 7. So the height of this particular shape my cylinder, my height is 7, and it would be meters in this case. Again, it's not going to be meters squared or meters cubed, it's just going to be straight up meters because it's only one length that I'm talking about. So personally, I like this step of merging my radius squared and the pi together and moving them as 4 pi, but it's totally up to you. If you want to skip that step and if you want to multiply these two together, you'll get probably a decimal number. You can then move that decimal across the other way. It's totally up to you. All right, let's have a go at this one here. So another cylinder, but this time we're missing the radius and we're given the height. So as always, start with your formula. So volume is equal to pi times the radius squared times the height. Okay, so now I'm just going to put these numbers into my formula and see what happens. So my volume is 15.7 pi times, I don't know what my radius is, so I leave it as r, but I do have a h, so I've got 5. Okay, so similarly to before, if I want to, I can put in my calculator 5 times pi and I'll get a decimal. Or I can rearrange this, because it actually doesn't matter what order these are written in. I can rearrange this so that it's neater down here, like here. I would combine these to be 5 pi. But let me show you the other way of the decimal option, and then you can choose which one you like better. So because I can multiply pi and I can multiply 5, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So 15.7 equals 5 times pi, and I get 15.70. You know what, I'll round it to one decimal place. Times the radius squared. Okay, so what I've done is I multiplied pi and 5, and I got this decimal number. I got 15.7. And then I just have times r squared, all right, because my r wasn't involved, it's stuck on the end there. So now I need to move this 15.7 to the other side. So I'm going to divide this side by 15.7, divide this side by 15.7. They've cancelled out. So I'm left with over this side is r squared. And there's 15.7 goes in there. Okay, but I can't stop yet. I still have another step here. This is r squared. I need to get r on its own. So what's the opposite of squaring something? Square root. So I need to square root both sides. So the square root of 1 is still 1. But this means my radius is 1. All right, so the key messages when it comes to working backwards, I suppose you could call it, using the volume to find a dimension on one of the shapes, the key messages to know, the key things to know are putting your the numbers into the formula, okay? And then you just move things across to the other side until you get the letter on its own. So like here, I moved all this stuff over to the other side, so I was just left with H. I did the same here. Moved the 4 and the 3 multiplied over to the other side, so I just got X. And same deal here, moved them to the other side until I just got R on its own. But I didn't get R on its own, I had to square root to get rid of the squared. And that's how we work backwards.